The following is an ESG video brief.
Hello, Mark Peters of ESG. Let's start with a couple of contemporary challenges for the storage industry. There are constantly new approaches and terms to understand and, if well manifested, to adopt, even when there's debate around definition. And there's tension between the older, more structured ways of IT and today's more flexible approaches. The older way is to talk engineering details, while the newer is all about outcomes. Within data storage and management, this tension can be viewed as a result of moving from it being an occupation to an application, which means you stop twiddling knobs and working to control storage and start having storage work for you. If any new broad data construct is to be truly successful, it must straddle both worlds, while also being simple to use, flexible and economic. It must have a great value proposition for the progressives, and yet be way more than just a datasheet panacea for the conservatives. Here's the next new term showing up on the vendor landscape: data fabric. Generally, it's in the context of next-generation software-defined storage solutions. HPE talks about the composable nature of its data fabric, which gives it a unique angle, but the general concept is much broader than a single vendor because of the value that SDS can bring, especially its ability to straddle those two worlds. HPE's composable data fabric vision is, in essence, to build on its proven software-defined storage foundation with a universal storage operating system, which will span every platform, workload, form factor, and protocol in, eventually, software-defined data centers, scaling from the smallest IT closet to cloud-scale data centers, and doing so with extreme flexibility and attributes around API-driven automation and container support, hence the composable moniker. While it is an appealing offer, it's easy to see that, as with so much in IT, what might be a luxury for the few today will rapidly become a necessity for the majority. HPE is not alone in seeing the opportunity, but it's clearly very well placed to deliver. More on that soon, but let's first remind ourselves why a composable data fabric makes sense. There are dramatic changes taking place in storage and data management. The triumvirate of cloud, hyper-converged systems and software definition is literally set to take over the storage world. As this ESG research shows, in just a few years, the vast majority of storage practitioners expect the switch to have been made. Perhaps most telling is that 94% of storage decision makers are either committed to SDS as a long-term strategy or conceptually interested. As we make this change, there are essentially two parallel tracks, which HPE calls design centers, that boil down to a more traditional world of integrated systems and more or less flash, and the newer dynamic software-controlled and dynamically consumed world. Now, there's an old joke about stopping someone to ask for directions. Do you know where it is, you ask? Sure, they say. It's lovely there, but if I were you, I wouldn't start from here. The IT world may be more nuanced, but this, in a nutshell, describes the storage challenge that HPE is addressing with its composable data fabric. So, directions aside, what is actually driving the need for a change in the way we do storage? It can be summarized in two elements. Direct storage issues. Frankly, as shown here, the myriad issues with current storage methodologies are testimony that much of what we've done in storage for decades has been a least worst approach. Non-storage issues per se. The growing demands for things like app mobility, cloud-native apps, cross-platform big data apps, rack-scale deployments for unstructured data, and simply moving apps and data closer together, perhaps for analytics or IoT, all mitigate in favor of a more integrated approach to data storage and management. So, what should a composable data fabric include? It will, of necessity, have a software-defined storage foundation and offer sophisticated scale-out storage functionality across all protocols and platforms, whether bare metal, any hypervisor or container, and whether on-premises or, ultimately, in the cloud. It would also need to be consumed with equal flexibility on standalone servers, hyper-converged appliances, or the HPE, and perhaps eventually other equivalent, composable infrastructure. The attraction is clear. Execution is now the issue, and HPE brings much to this party. It's a pioneer in SDS with over 200,000 store virtual deployments, over 20% of which are part of hyper-converged installations. It's been leading in x86 servers since the category was created 20 years ago, and it's rapidly integrating the Composable Data Fabric capabilities with its next-gen Synergy platform and embedding it in Helion OpenStack and NFV. Plus, it has strong management with HPE OneView and OpenStack. This breadth and vision is one that allows HPE to straddle both the traditional and emerging worlds. Pulling from roots in 3PAR, left-hand networks and HPE labs, the necessary capabilities already exist, so porting them to the Data Fabric software should be a matter of when, not if. Composable Data Fabric is part of the long-predicted move for data storage to be a standard global mobile on-demand utility. It supports us moving after decades of managing rigid silos of storage invariably linked to specific systems to instead reap the value from dynamically integrated data across ecosystems. HPE's Composable Data Fabric allows it to answer not only that it knows where you and your data are headed, but the destination is worthwhile, and yes, you can start from here.